Hello, once again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our virtual classroom. Today, we're going to be going over using cross products to solve proportions, or rather solving proportions using cross products. Now, as always, I encourage you to pause the video if you need to at any point, rewind it if you weren't so sure of how I did something. But regardless, what I like about this lesson and really all of the previous lessons is that nothing really has been new. All of these are things that you've already seen in some way, shape, or form in the past. For example, even the word proportion that we have here, we should know by now that the word proportion simply means equivalent fractions, or rather fractions or ratios that have the same value. You can think of something like 1/2 and 2/4. These would be said to be proportional because they are equivalent. They are the same thing. Something like 3/7 and 21 49ths. These would be proportional, right? They are equivalent because you would they both simplify to 3/7. That's all of what it means whenever you see the word proportion or proportional. And so when we're saying we're solving proportions, we're saying that we're going to have two fractions like we do right here. For example, we have 5/4, and we're saying that that is going to be equivalent to 10 over some number. And the way that we solve this is we need to find out what is that number. Here I put an X because I don't know what that number is. We're trying to see what number needs to be the denominator of 10 so that this fraction is equivalent, so that it is proportional to 5/4. Again, we need to see what the denominator under 10 needs to be so that this fraction needs to be equivalent to 5/4. Now, we've been doing this all week. We know that the way that we do that is we can work with the numerators, and we can see that 5 times 2 is equal to 10, okay? So that means that if you increase 4 by a factor of 2 also, then that will tell me what the denominator needs to be. And 4 times 2 is 8. So that means that 10/8 is equivalent to 5/4. 10/8 is equivalent to 5/4. And that's exactly what you see here in this example. Now, a way that we can check that, meaning if ratios really are equivalent, then the cross products will be equivalent. If 5/4 really is equivalent to 10/8, if I cross multiply them, if I multiply 4 times 10 and 8 times 5, then I should get the same answer for each. 4 times 10 is 40, 8 times 5 is 40. Ladies and gentlemen, I get the same cross product. That means that indeed 5/4 is equivalent to 10/8. Now, another way that you could set that up, or rather the way that we've been doing it with percents, was we can say, well, if 5/4 is equivalent to 10/8, then that means that 4 times 10, so here I have 4 times 10, will be equal to 8 times 5, which is 8 times 5. Of course, if we work both of those out, 4 times 10 is 40, and 8 times 5 is 40. Again, that shows us that these are equivalent. So why am I bringing this up? Besides the fact that you can always check to see if fractions are equal if you cross multiply. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we can actually take this process that we just did right here to find the missing variable, find the missing part. Let me show you. So let's start from the very beginning. Same exact problem that we had up here. So 5/4 is equal to 10 over x, 5/4 is equal to 10 over x. And the way that we're going to solve this, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to use the cross products. We're going to cross multiply. All right, so let me go ahead and take, I'm going to make an equation. Okay, I'm going to make an equation down here where I'm going to take 4 times 10, which is right here, and I am going to put that on one side of the equation, and on the other, I'm going to take 5 times x, and so that's where I have 5 times x. Now, I can simplify this a little bit, meaning that I know what 4 times 10 is. 4 times 10 is 40, and 5 times x is just 5x. So let me put this here on the side just so that you guys don't get confused with what I already wrote down. So we're left with 5x is equal to 40. All right. And if you remember from when we were doing percentages, after we would cross multiply, the last step was always to divide by the number next to the letter. So right here is the letter x, So we're going to divide by the number 5, and whatever I do to one side, I do to the other, leaving me with, so 5 divided by 5 cancels. X will equal to whatever 40 divided by 5, and that brings me back to 8. Notice how I got the same answer as what I did at the very top. Same answer, because 5 times 2 is 10, so 4 times 2 is 8. Cool. So awesome, Mr. Lugo. You found a much more complicated way to get the same answer. Why are you even showing us this? Very good question, students. Well, that is because while yes, this process seems to be a lot easier to just multiply by 2, both the numerator and denominator, you can't always do that. You can't always do that. Let me show you another example. Let's go to the second page of notes. And here we have the example, 5/4 is equal to 12 over x. 5/4 is equivalent to 12 over x. Notice, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what to multiply 5 by to get 12. 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15. It doesn't evenly fit, so I don't know what to multiply the 4 by either. It is some kind of decimal value. And so what you can always do, ladies and gentlemen, is cross multiply. Step number 1, write it down on your paper. Easy. In fact, this step really applies to when you have a word problem. It might be like 5 boys, the ratio of boys to girls is 5/4. So if you have 12 boys, how many girls are there? That's kind of, that's what this refers to write down the proportion. But here we already have the proportion. We have both fractions. We're asking ourselves what denominator needs to be under 12 so that 12 over that denominator is equivalent to 5/4. Okay, step number 1 complete. Step number 2, we're going to write down the cross products. We're going to cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply 5 times x. 5 times x is right here. And I'm going to multiply 12 times 4, which is already right here. 12 times 4. And yes, those are going to go on either side of the equation. Awesome. We can make some sense of this. So that's going to leave us with 5x is equal to 4 times 12 is 48. Last step, ladies and gentlemen. Now here it says solve for x, isolate the variable. This is important, but we're going to cover that in more detail later. What I just want you to write for number 3 or remember is all we need to do is divide. Divide by the number next to the letter. Next to the letter, which is sometimes called a variable. So step 1, we write it down. Step 2, we cross multiply. We cross multiply, which we already did, 5x, and then 4 times 12 is 48. And lastly, we just divide by the number next to the letter. So the letter right here is the letter x, meaning I'm going to divide by 5. So divide by 5, and whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So 48 divided by 5 will give us our answer. So when I divide 48 by 5, 48 divided by 5, that's going to give me 9. Put a decimal, bring down to 0. 5 goes into 36. That's going to give me 9.6. Meaning that 5/4 is the same thing. It is equivalent to 12 over 9.6. That's it. That seems like a lot, but it really wasn't. Wrote it down, cross multiply, divide by the number next to the letter. Wrote it down, cross multiplied, and then we divided by the number next to the letter, and that gave us our answer. Pretty simple, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so with that in mind, let's go into our actual assignment, which is in Schoology, and notice how simple this assignment is. Numbers 1 through 7 is asking, are these ratios proportional? Basically, are they equivalent fractions? Do these fractions mean the same thing? The easiest thing to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to simply cross multiply. 4 times 3 is 12. 8 times 1 or 1 times 8 is 8. Guys, are 8 and 12 the same thing? They are not the same thing. So ladies and gentlemen, no, these are not equivalent. That is all you're doing, all the way down to number 7. Number 7, same thing. Are they equivalent? Well, 26 times 1 is 26. 2 times 13 is 26. Oh, look, these two are the same thing. Therefore, yes, these are equivalent. Anytime you have 2 fractions, you can always check to see that they are equivalent by simply cross multiplying. Awesome. All right, moving on to number 8. Number 8, notice that this is like the problems that we saw in our homework, okay? 4/3 is the same thing as 16 over what? Okay, it's written down. Let's go ahead and write our cross products. 3 times 16 3 times 16 will be on this side, and 4x will be on the other, 4 times x. 3 times 16 is 48, and that is equal to 4x. Final step, we are simply going to divide by the number next to the variable, next to the letter. So divide by 4, and whatever you do to one side, we do to the other. Ladies and gentlemen, x will equal to whatever 48 divided by 4 is, which is 12. So my answer would be 12. Now, the cool thing about this problem is actually that you could have done it a much easier way. Just do 4 times what is equal to 16, 4 times 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. Again, my answer is 12. That is what you're doing for the rest of these problems. Let me do one more together with you. B over 6 is equal to 6 over 36. All right, well, two ways of doing it. Let's go ahead and start with cross multiplying. So we have 36 times B on one side, and on the other, we have 6 times 6, which is 36. All right, second step or third step, divide by the number next to the letter. Here's the letter. So we're going to divide by 36. And whatever you do to one side, do to the other, 36. So B is equal to 36 divided by 36 is 1. That's my final answer, which makes sense because notice that, how do I get from 6 to 36? You multiply by 6, meaning that 36 divided by 6 is 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. It totally works out. It might be easier to see it the other way. You can write, instead of B over 6 is 6 over 36, you can write 6 over 36 is equal to B over 6. I'm not changing the order of the fraction because 6 is still the numerator. I just put this in front. It means the exact same thing. 36 divided by 6 is 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. So my answer would be 1. So you'll keep doing that all the way down, ladies and gentlemen. Follow that same pattern. And when you get to the word problems, just notice the things you're comparing. 3 over 63 is equal to 7 over 147. Is that true or not? 16 over 2 is the same thing as 40 over 5. Is that true or not? So just be careful as you're writing down those ratios. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this video was very helpful to you. And with that in mind, I will see you next time.